of just this lunchtime is just to go through kind of what changes we've been doing to the council community on the Collective for Climate Action, getting your views, getting your feedback, and using it as a bit of a how we can improve or what things that people don't like. So we've got the Jamboards, we've got the comments box up. So if you are having any issues with the Jamboard, just let us know. If none of you have used it before, just to give you an idea. So, and hopefully everybody can see my screen if there's any problems. We haven't been able to use a Microsoft whiteboard, hence why we're using Google, so I do apologise. Is that you can edit and you can add on your own notes through the Jamboard, and we navigate through basically the top half here, so it kind of goes one slide, two slide. And what I'm going to go through as part of today is a change we've done, and then there'll be kind of like a blank page where you can just add all your ideas, and then at the end there'll be like a Q&A, because I know we've only got 45 minutes, and if we finish a bit early we do. So I'm Heather Foster. If anybody doesn't know, I'm the council lead and I work with Ian Cable as part of the working group on education. And we've been over the last 2 days just going through what the Collective for Climate Action is, and we will be uploading one of our videos on that if anybody does want to see it. It'll be on our YouTube Collective for Climate Action website, and I'll send over a link on that. And we've just trying to go through kind of what people want, how we're communicating, but this one is more how we can work better for the councils, because we now have 130 councils, I believe, Ian, as part of the collective now.
Yeah.
And it's how do we kind of get more well, not maybe more communication. I know that Richard, we were just having a chat about how much information, but I'm guessing it's how we can work better and communicate with each other easier. Because of course, if we're going to go from 120 and there might be more climate officers, more people in procurement, or adding, you know, climate to their sustainability role, there's going to be a lot more people on here, and how we can make that work better for everyone. Hi, Martin.
Hi.
How are you? So we were just kind of having a short run through. So just let me know. We have got a Jamboard. That's what I'm on at the moment. It should have gone through Eventbrite, and we're going to go through that, and you can add ideas on there, and we'll just kind of discuss areas and what we've done. So just as an overview, what we've done over the last couple of months is we went out to around about 60 collective climate members. 30 were in the council, 30 were outside. And you probably are aware we're hosting at the same time a wider CfCA community engagement, and we've got council one, and we're going to be tying them both together. And from that we got quite a lot of feedback, and there is a link on here down the bottom if you do want to see kind of the outputs of the feedback. Let me just type that in. It's on there. Just gives you an overview of what feedback we got. The aim is to utilise the collective to be more of a community, because there's a lot of places where you can get information from, and that's not really an issue. I think there's a lot of information out there at the moment for climate and ecological crisis. We wanted to use this as more of a community, having somewhere to talk to somebody, share ideas, and you know, sometimes there's a few grey areas in a lot of guidance that we get. And how we can kind of cut through that. So that's really why we want to kind of put councils in the forefront, is because we are dealing with a lot of how we can push this and talk to residents and communities, and doing things even if you're not in a climate role, how you can talk to other you know, colleagues, etc. So our aim is basically how we can network better. So what we've been doing in terms of our getting people involved in the collective. So some of you have probably been very similar to my experience when I came onto the collective. There wasn't very much of an onboarding, what we were about, what we actually do, how we work. So what we've actually done is we've created an onboarding form for all new starters. And it's really simple. It's about what, 3 minutes, maybe a bit less, and it goes to, you know, why they want to be here, what support they may need. We do tell people about Slack beforehand, you know, to give people a bit of an overview, because like for me, I never used Slack before and it can look very daunting. And I can't say that hasn't changed, but it, you know, we're giving tips on terms of, you know, how to access it, so when you come on it doesn't seem so daunting, and same with Trello. So we have got that on there, and we kind of give an idea of what our aims and objectives are as well, and I'll share that in the comments box so you can have a nosy on it. And also what I've done is a short video as well. It's about a minute and a half, that just kind of gives people an introduction to what we're about, and, you know, making it that people don't feel that they can't, you know, talk to other people, or, you know, how do they use it and how do they communicate on it. So we've got that, and we give them kind of a bit of a resource on what we call Trello, and they are kind of like action points of what people can do when they start. So what I'm happy to do as we go through this is you can feel free to add on here any thoughts about onboarding where you think maybe we should do things differently, and you can literally just add ideas onto this tab. And they're all on anonymous, so if you think that there are things that we need to do with onboarding that maybe we've not considered before, understanding what to do, you can feel free to add them all on here, and we're going to just do this as we go along. And then we'll go back to them. So if you've got any ideas or onboarding, feel free to add those on as we go along. So thank you so much for starting. So I like that idea. Are there plans for existing members to fill in the form? I think so. I think that's probably a really good idea, because I know with the onboarding form, let me get that up just to give you an idea. You can see all the fun tabs that I have. So the things that we ask for, so we do actually ask people to, for example, to agree and read to the CfCA aims, for example. So we put on there, what about our community and our values? So they have to agree whether they want to be part of the values or not. We've said that if they don't agree, we just ask them why, because half of them haven't they? They've said we don't agree to the aims, but we still want to be a member. So we're going, so what do we need to do to make it work for them? So I think that would be a good idea. Maybe a bit of a shorter one, because of course you're already on there. You might not want to add all your details back on there. But, you know, it sounds people up to, you know, the coffee and chat, the climate cafes, you know, where their personal commitments are, whether they want, you know, needed some help or they're going well, you know, what they might want to use for the CfCA and getting part of the working group. So we do kind of have that element. So I think that's a good idea in terms of getting people onto the board. So that would be great. So just in terms of other changes that we've done, so we've done quite a bit of change to the Slack channels, because we were informed that there was quite a lot of channels, what to do. So what we've actually done is we removed 6 channels, and you might have noticed that we've now got CfCA core kind of supporting channels that people have asked for. And then we've created a few more channels. So, you know, civil service have one, there's one for councils, one for NHS, one for teachers, etc. So we can have one for different organisations. And one of the things that came out was a lot of people wanted cross-government working. So we set up regional communities. So if somebody's working in DEFRA or a council to home office and they lived, say, for example, in Stevenage or something, they could sign up to God, I gotta remember where Stevenage is now. I'm going to say southeast if I'm wrong.
Yeah, southeast.
Southeast. Could have got that wrong. Then it would be that we could join up, so something could be happening in that area that somebody else could talk in. And that was the idea, because at the moment we're very much council. There's not very much cross government chatting, so we've not seen much take up of that, but it literally has just gone out, hence why we're doing a conversation today, to see whether that is the way forward or whether they're just another channel that creates more comms. But with everything, you can choose which ones you do or do not want to be a part of. So you could just say that you choose 2 channels, the council channel and the main homepage, and you leave all the rest. If you don't want to do anything in terms of biodiversity or COP26, or signing up to the events, you can just choose the channels you want to be signed up to, or you can choose more. So it's there for people to be flexible or not.
Yeah, you really can just right click on the channel and it's in red, leave channel, you want to be out of that one. So
yeah, I think I
change
can
the
do
number
that,
of
can't
default
you?
channels.
Just literally go into
Yeah,
here and then
you can just do it on the actual channel as well. So just right click on the actual name of the channel, leave channel. So it's made it really, really easy for you to do that. Yeah, and we're going to reduce the number of default channels that people get exposed to when they come in.
Showing you all my procedures. And then the final ones that are the working group ones, we do say to people, don't join those unless you want to join. So we're going to use that through the sign up form. So like you said, for existing members, that would be quite useful. So it is literally just for those that are part of the volunteer working groups in the background. So they're kind of going to be really much as a smaller group. So I'd like to know if you thought the renaming of the channels worked or not. Feel free to add anything on. I've actually added one in. Somebody wants a book club channel. So I've added that one on. If you feel that there's anything where it's not working right in terms of, too many channels still, feel free to add those in there as well as we go along as part of the talk. So it's just to kind of say, do you think the regional channels work? Is it too much, etc.? So there was a question, because we have working groups that look at all the way from human psychology to research to education to do our Q&As, was whether we need maybe potentially a working group for councils. At the moment, it's just me leading on councils and putting resources in, but that's me doing it for mine purpose than other councils. So we normally have about, is it 5 or 6 people mostly, Ian, as volunteers on our working groups?
Yeah, healthy working groups got about that many people in it.
Yeah, healthy working groups. And we normally have co-leads. So Ian's educational lead, I support Ian. And there was an idea of, if sustainability is getting quite big, do we potentially need a working group to help look at, even for action, upcoming events. I've got, a few other councils that have said, I'd like to discuss this issue and this issue with a couple of people. Do we just have another person leading on it that, is doing that work in that area and just wants to chat to people? Would that be useful for people? Do we do it every other month, quarterly? Do we help steer questions, look after, because we do also have critical friends like the LGA, APSI have just joined, and we are looking at quite a few others. I mean, Climate Emergency UK has been with us for quite a while, and we make sure that anybody that's external we kind of partner with and we talk to before they come on to the channel to make sure it's a free and open space. So and we are reaching out to a lot more councils. So I actually do, I think I annoy about 20 councils every day on LinkedIn. So that's my my action. So I thought it'd be good to kind of get your view on, do you want to learn more about the wider CfCA group and what we do? Should we do something on a local group? What should that look like? Do you think it's worth it? Not worth it? Feel free to add comments in there as well as we go along. And maybe even if it is adding more people onto, as an organisations, because the one thing we're concerned is if we have a lot of external organisations, how do we manage that many? We'd need a working group to do that, and people being open to doing it. So just add any thoughts that you have on here, and do apologise as we go along. This is the first time we've ever done this, so we'll see. Also, you may have seen we've updated a community newsletter. I don't think we've done one for quite a while, have we, Ian?
No, this is the first one since 2020. So.
Yeah. I was thinking we might, because if we're on slide 9, by the way, I should say this as we go along, as you're on the Jamboard, so you don't have to look at my presentation, you can do it with us. And I've kind of put the key changes that we've done. The main thing was to kind of focus around the community aspect, so it's not an information element, it's more, what's happened in the community. We've kind of put on a main event. So for example, like the climate ecological bill, we're doing a Q&A with them on the 27th of May. And then we kind of put kind of key things that we're looking at. Say, for example, like we are looking at external volunteers to help us out with the collective. And then we normally do one storyline that kind of links in with where we're at. And we're doing these every other month now, so every 2 months. So for example, we've focused on Mental Health Week because that was coming out in May, and then we've done kind of like a run up to June with World Environment Day because it had biodiversity in it and it had nature, so we kind of linked in, and we'd put a few videos on there. And then we kind of got an action page, like what things people could do, you know, like taking part in 30 Wild Days challenge, reflecting on last year, you know, talking with people. And that's been a big part of what we're trying to do is action. We can say and do, you know, in terms of, you know, getting a newsletter out, but how can we help people take that? Because as we know, there's some people that aren't climate focused and are climate focused in the council group. So, you know, so me personally could just take the 30 days wild challenge, but maybe somebody like me could talk to another colleague about it. And then we've added our Q&A. So what we've got again is things that you'd like to see in the newsletter. You know, is the structure good? Is it too much? Would you like a page? You know, do we keep it small? You know, because before it used to be quite full, so we've stripped it down, but it would be good to kind of get more information on that as well. And I like the elements that are in there. You know, did the videos work? Too long, too big? I know that Anthony, we put the cats video in there for the eco anxiety and coping with stress. So we are trying to use resources where we can. And then we of course have our events and community chats. So we have put on there actually some testimonials from, you know, Mike, myself, and Maya in terms of, you know, why did we come to the CfCA? How was it created? We've been doing Q&A events the last couple of months to try and get experts in the field out. And one of them was, how do we find out what councils want to hear about? There's been a lot, even yesterday was mentioned, how do we connect people with experts in the field? You know, ask questions that you want. And the issue that we've been having is we've been doing polls on Slack, but having very little response back. You know, up to maybe 7 or 9 people out of 890 people in our community. So it's how do we get them? Should that be in the newsletter? Should that be on Slack? Should that be, you know, because we don't want to over bombard people with emails, because I think we all can probably agree we get a lot of emails. So it's how do we kind of know what people want in the community, but also getting their engagement back is a big part of that as well. So as I say, we also are looking more at the well-being side as well. So as well as having events, we do host coffee and chats. So they're one-to-one where you partner with somebody in Bays or Home Office or Department for Work and Pensions or another council. And I've found those really useful. I really enjoy them, just to get to talk to somebody else over lunchtime or after work. And we are hosting climate CAFs as well. So the next one's the 3rd of June, and they're normally like a well-being, you know, where you feel maybe overwhelmed with things and you just want to talk. I know, Ian, we probably use it a lot when we just get a little bit up here. Not everybody will need that, but that's how we thought, what can we offer people that's different than anywhere else? And we just want to get your feedback on what you think on those. Do they need to be better, more often? How do we kind of make sure the Q&A is the best? So for example, like one of mine, I really want to reach out to Mike Berners-Lee to do an event around Brewdog and stuff, but I don't feel comfortable doing that. How many other people want to do that? And I, you know, getting people's views. For example, before I contact external bodies and kind of saying, could you do as a free half-an-hour Q&A? And that's the big thing is, you know, could that be the council working group? Could that be something around there? So feel free to add any comments. And really ones to take away to really have a discussion is how to get people engaged. that's the big one for me, is that we've got a lot of people now, 130 councils, some people experts in elements, like I know EV charge points in and out, for example. But how do we get people to use it? Do we ask them to look at it once a week? Maybe ask a question once a month, maybe answer another person's query, because a lot of it will be that we all know somebody that can help. And that's the big difference. It's not that we have a library of stuff. I know I've created on the community channel, which I know Anthony just referred to, in terms of a library of resources, but it's how to get people to the information that they want to get to. And that's the big part of why we created the community. So that was a bit, how do we get people to take action, use Slack? That would be great. Maybe you have ideas. We are going to look at that tomorrow as well. But I thought in terms of a council, because we are very busy people, it's how do we make it quite user friendly as well. And that kind of leads me on to, in terms of like with the council resources and things, are they useful? Are they not? How do we get people to link in really as well? So they are the slides. I do apologise. It's probably a lot of information. And hi, Bill. I know that we've just been going through the Jamboard. So what we've said is that each kind of open space, you can add your own kind of sticky note ideas, questions. And I know I've gone through a lot. So I'm happy, because we've got kind of 20 minutes as well. I'll go through some of the ideas that are on here. And then if anybody wants to pipe up, then feel free. So in terms of the onboarding, so I'm just going to cancel this out.
Should we just have like one of the pages at the end or something for everyone to add their comments to, so that they can see that other stuff's going on there? And
yeah. The final, so it's on slide 16 is all the Q&As, but I was going to go through each one. So I'm just going to go through the onboarding. So we've got useful for members to have their job description in their Slack profile, definitely. That is a big question. So I think maybe to help members, when they set up their Slack pages, because you can see what council they're from, but not what job they do. And that's quite a fair comment.
That's really useful thing to have as well, because if people get used to using the search on Slack, then people who have it finds the words in people's actual profiles, so it will flag people who are in those areas or who know about those kinds of issues. So I mean, that's something that in the past we've tried to do, but it's we just got to make sure that people get prodded repeatedly about it, because it only takes a few seconds to do.
Yeah, I think that's something we could easily do on the join up actually. But like you said, for existing members, I think that's probably a useful, and we can see how many people are quite active or not, because they might have signed up and then not being quite active. So it might actually end up stripping out quite a few people that have kind of entered and they're not really sure. And like you said, so you can then find similar responsibilities, if they're procurement or different roles on housing, for example. So yeah, I like that one. So I think that's something for us to take away. I think for the Slack channels then, we've had some comments through.
I think one thing to remember as well is that when you're having like volunteer communities and stuff, apparently like about 10% level of engagement is actually meant to be like the benchmark for a successful community. It's easy to feel before we knew that, it felt like we weren't doing particularly well. But the numbers are getting up to that level, with like 100 people being active a week on Slack out of 850. So we're kind of approaching that. But obviously, just building the actual overall numbers will be really important in terms of building up that 10% to encompass more actual members.
No, like that. So yeah, I think that's coming across quite a lot, is channels for specific issues. So like flooding, involved in flood defences and other sources of data. Yeah, I think if specific channels help people get specific aims and the rest are quite generic, I think we can try it out. I mean, that's what we've been doing, haven't we, Ian? Really trialing things and seeing how it works.
Yeah, and you can't have in Slack, you can't have too many channels. It may sound like you can, but obviously you can't. You can subscribe to too many channels, but you can't have too many in the workspace, basically. And if they start to not really work, then we can just delete them really easily. So, and we're really happy to try ones out. What we normally recommend is to wait until some kind of traffic's been generated around a certain issue, because we've had people in the past really passionately want to start a channel, and they've started it, but they've not been able to. It's kind of on them to generate the traffic on it and pull people over to it. And often they don't do very well if there's not like a bit of groundswell towards wanting them. But we can have as many as we like. Just be careful how many you subscribe to.
No, and I think that's quite a useful one, because I know that we've been looking at offering out, just to let you know, for district heating. I've actually offered Slack as a place for people to put a channel. So, if an organisation is set one up for Bays, for example, on Green Homes grants, to create them. But I have noticed that other council channels have started to come out from other places, so it can be quite daunting. But like you said, that's managed by a engineer, and he's got the kind of want to build it, and he's done it through, I think it's called the Guild app. So again, it's like with anything, it's got to be promoted by somebody that's willing to see it through and put information on there as well. So, but no, I think we should try it and then probably give it 6 months and see how it goes. And if there's any support, I think, yeah, it'll be great. And I think funding channels would be really useful. I definitely think that, because I know that I've been putting funding on the central council document, but you'd have to go to page 5 before you saw all the grant schemes and then knowing what they're about. So I think
when we have got a funding channel, as you said, well, it's been aggregated, hasn't it, Heather, into like jobs and opportunities and funding. But we did have one that was just economics and funding before. But we can certainly, again, like if it would work to have one that was just for funding, that's something that we could easily do and just separate it out if that's something that people are interested in doing.
Yeah, I've just put on there the document I was on about in terms of the climate and ecological resource, and it's got grants on there. So it'd be interesting to see if there's a better way of doing that. I like the central council channel, keeps everything in one place, but it'd be the link up with experts on topic areas. I think that's the big part of what we do. Balance what creates more activity. Pay attention to things that are active and interesting. Yeah, so I think, yeah, it's that mixture of what creates more activity is more work, more people being communicating on the regional channel. So maybe that could be something we kickstart on what they're about. Okay.
We've been told as well, and it's something that we want to push, and we're going to start doing, is just having like 30-minute discussions where people can actually just talk to each other. Apparently, the written word on these kind of platforms is, it's obviously a part of the communication, but the other side of it is people actually, the community kind of runs on relationships, and if people don't really know each other over above a photograph and some comments and emojis, then it's not always the most useful, or doesn't really galvanize people very much. Yeah, even just about, because what we find as well, especially in the coffee and chat sessions that we have, is that people just like to talk about just issues around sustainability and climate, because they don't often get a chance to talk to other people about it as well. So we'll be starting to stick those on Eventbrite and start promoting those kinds of events. If you have anything that you would like to discuss anything about, then we can start promoting those events and trying to get an audience for you, or just get a bunch of people that you can chat and have an open session with.
Okay, let's see what we've got. So working groups would be up for every other month channel group to focus on key areas. I think that there's a bit of buy-in for that, so I'm happy to start on that and kind of communicate and see how people would like to do it. Yeah, more than happy. I think we've actually probably got quite a few people. I know when I was doing the interviews as well, they're like, oh, we want this, this and this and this, and I said, well, what could you do to help that? And they're like, I hadn't thought of it that way. I'm not getting it. I'm asking you for everything but not giving back. So that was quite interesting. So I think there's probably a lot of want for that. So the community newsletter, highlight some key upcoming events related to climate change. Okay, even in Trello board, yeah, because I mean there are so many events out at the moment, probably to be able to cut through all that mither. I think that's probably yeah, I'll be honest, have I even thought of that? Probably not. I've just gone, oh my goodness, another event, and another event. And I think I only looked at this week, and this was the only week that only had one other event on. And every week in May had 4 environmental events for the first, second, and last week in May. So yeah, I think that would be a really good thing to concentrate, and that could be something the council group could do. So yeah, I like that idea with the newsletter. In terms of our community chats then, I don't think we've got any questions on that. So I think we're all right. So I think community engagement, lots on here. So very difficult to know why people are not engaging. Are we sure there's a need? It's true. Or clear what the need is. I think that's probably very honest feedback. Maybe it's people just engaging to find out more. To be fair, the onboarding process will help, you know, because it says exploring, or they want to get something out of it. So I think maybe the asking existing members to sign up would be useful. Might be worth trying something like Slack Exchange. Have you ever heard of that, Ian?
The need as well. It's again, like we're not doing too badly at the moment, and you know, it's something that the Committee for Climate Change has said that, you know, councils certainly need to be more joined up in what they're doing, and sharing resources. We really understand that, like, the repeated issue is people not having enough time, and if we can simplify, you know, the access to information that they need, and just make it so there's some central places that we can either point people to, or that we can, you know, aggregate some of the information ourselves and make it as quick as possible, then you know, that's something that's,
I'm just
you know,
hungry.
we're
I'm
trying
not
to
eating
do.
anything today. Yeah.
Yeah, feel free to add if there's anything. So pledge, ask and respond once a month gets people to visit Slack regularly. So that could be something we could ask people to do when they sign up. Maybe ask people to sign on once a week for 10 minutes. Yeah, so I think maybe that's something we could do, like in terms of like a personal action or pledge, just to see what they could do to help. I think there are things that we can definitely take on. So I think in terms of our questions, then we've got a couple coming through. So, okie dokie, so we've got very useful. I was going to suggest some kind of more of a knowledge, general knowledge base. I'm happy, because if you want to remain anonymous, feel free. But if you've got any more information on that in terms of the more general knowledge base, I don't know who probably wrote that.
That was me, and that was a response to the thing about the climate and ecology resource document. So I mean, that is a great. Well, there's a couple of documents, weren't there? And they're both really useful. But I think Google Docs is a little bit limited in terms of being able to find your way around and find the resources that you need. So the issue that I find with Slack is great for things that are, you know, coming up and they're topical and you know, are really useful to be alerted to. But when I want to go back and you know, just have somewhere to find information, it's pretty useless. So some kind of organized knowledge base where we can all be posting useful information to share would be, I think, would be really useful.
Yeah, it's something that we talked about yesterday, wasn't it, Ian? Like also as well as like a Q&A as well. Like how do you find previous questions? Because you can use the search bar, but
Yeah.
sometimes you have to know what was said.
We have got we can call on K-Hub again. Again, it's another thing for people to sign up to, but I know a lot of people are already on there, and the search function is really, really effective. Actually, we've moved away from it for the moment, but we don't actually have a place that's got massive amounts of storage space that we can get for nothing, and we know that Knowledge Hub is almost limitless. So yeah, it would take a good amount of organising to make sure that it stayed good or stayed well structured and stuff. But yeah, that could be something that we look at. Did you have an idea, Tim?
Yeah, so I mean, it's always the problem is maintaining these things, isn't it? But K-Hub is another discussion-based platform, which is not really what I was thinking of. I was thinking
No.
something more
It's
like
it looks like it's got a forum, but that's literally the reason we moved away. The forum's really awful, and that's why we had to move away from it. But there's a whole filing structure, so you can save huge amounts of documents and stuff in there. We've got some on our K-Hub site, but we haven't looked at it for quite a while. So, but yeah, there's lots and lots of space in there, and the search function is really, actually, I'm surprised how effective it is.
Okay, apologies, I hadn't come across that, to be honest.
Yes. Well, to be fair, what was your thinking, just so it gives me an idea?
Well, I was thinking of something like Confluence.
Confluence, I've not heard of that.
Yeah.
Confluence.
It's another tool, I know, but it's a kind of wiki based thing, and it's just really easy for people to add stuff and kind of organize pages and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Knowledge Hub has got that. It even has like a specific wiki function on it. The only reason I've really looked into Knowledge Hub at all is because I had to kind of curate it when we first started. But it doesn't look quite slick and stuff as a lot of other things. But it might be something that we can look at, because a lot of people already signed up to it as well, and it does poke people with email notifications, which is quite useful too. But it'd be good to get your feedback on if I could point you in the direction of some of the stuff that's on there in the file structure, and see if you think that's something that would work.
Yeah, it would be good to be pointed to as well.
Yeah, and as we know, there's about 400 councils on the Knowledge Hub as well, which is like the library of information. So we do know that a lot of people are there, and it's also a direct resource as well for a lot of others. So it's kind of set up almost as well. So if we can utilise that, but yeah, I think any feedback would be useful. As I know we've got a few minutes, I'm open to kind of just open conversations around it. If anybody wants to put their hand up, if they've got any question, I know that Joss is about to probably leave, so so I'm happy to answer any questions.
Heather, I was just going to make a point. I know you mentioned earlier about APSI.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, in terms of APSI Energy specifically and the support, I think they've got 120 odd authorities that are members. Obviously, you have to pay to be part of that.
We do
as
indeed.
an authority. But we certainly find them very useful. But it's and they sort of ask questions on behalf of their members. So you regularly get emails saying a member authority has asked this question. Can anybody provide advice? So it's a kind of curated service, but it's done through email. It's not very collaborative. But there's part of what they're about is about joining the dots between authorities as a kind of member service and a function. And I guess and that on the whole works reasonably well, I think. And their events are pretty good. For me, what I would really like to get out of CfCA is it's that cross-sectoral public cross-section. So it's that connectivity between local authorities, central government, whatever the heck we now call the agencies. I forgot what the phrase is now for all the different agency systems. But that's the bit for me that would provide some real value, whether it be done at a regional level or sorry, Ian.
No, I was going to say that is part of the vision, really. It's just to make it so, because we know, like for example, the Civil Service Environment Network, for example, they've got like divisions. They've got their own environmental network. There's loads and loads of environmental networks around. There's different groups even within the Environment Agency, and the idea is to try and get everyone to have one or two channels that they're subscribed to on chat and Slack. It may only be one channel, and then like have their own channel where they can use it to just converse with each other, but yet they're still a click away from finding a way to connect with everyone else in the home channel, or whichever channel that ends up being. So just to get that kind of cross government support, as you say, because I know that within the Environment Agency we've got, for example, the Sustainable Business Team, climate change teams, and there's a lot of expertise locked up in them, and they themselves don't get a lot of chance to share the information that they have, again because of work constraints that lots of people have. And they're currently working within the EA to try and get people who know more about what's going on in the Environment Agency to be able to get that information out, basically. I've got a few people that I know, but I shake them down regularly, and I need to lessen the burden on them.
I think there's probably two parts, isn't there, Irene? I think maybe the council working group that we have maybe we could have an aim, because when I came, I thought there'd be more cross-government working, and it's just depends who signed up. Very different. So like, for example, Bays, I've got a lot of connections there, and there's some, you know, like with COP26, I just reached out on LinkedIn and found the SME team that are doing like a whole project, and I was like, that'd be really great if you were on the collective and could have reached out to more people than just me. So I think maybe there's something there for us to do, and I think there's actually some action to do to kind of get that joined up working, so that they're not so afraid to talk to councils, because like with anything, they're just afraid that if they say it, it becomes you know what I mean, like there's a lot of grey that they like to give, but sometimes opinion, you know, over the phone you can get an answer like that quickly, and I think it's just breaking down those barriers. So I think maybe that's something to work on in the council group, I think, to actually make that real. So I know Julie just mentioned I work for the improvement service who supports Scottish councils. Just wondering about current Scottish engagement. Actually, yes, definitely. We are actually at the moment we're only engaged with Aberdeen Climate Action, but their group, and Ian's been with them, is to actually create, isn't it all of councils, isn't it, across the whole Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland and England?
They've got their ambitions are mostly for the northeast of Scotland, primarily where they started. They're a charity that works in association with Aberdeenshire District Council, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're working nationally and internationally as well, and they've got their engagement event in September. And our Slack platform is going to be it's the kind of platform of choice for them to direct people to communicate with each other, you know, around the event and after the event as well. So that's part of the reason why we're trying to knock ourselves into shape to build something which, you know, you as members want and find useful, to try and help those guys as well. And that's a big part of what we're trying to do, is to collaborate with all those other groups that are around the country, and just have, you know, somewhere where people can come and at least have access to a network, which is, you know, noded, and people can find information from others as well.
So I know that we've come up to our time, so if you need to leave, feel free. We'll still be on. The Slack, the actual Jam board will be open. So if you've got any ideas or anything that comes open, this will be open for the next couple of, I think the next couple of weeks, haven't we? And the main aim is to, so tomorrow we've got an event on about how we can do the next steps, because the idea is we're going to come back in September with an event with the Aberdeen Climate Action to do a kind of joint working and actually kind of bring back in terms of what action up until COP. So like, for example, we've linked in with the carbon literacy team, and they've got a kind of an idea of what they want to do, and we're linking in with them with the education element, and a lot more kind of to give. So if you have any ideas, feel free to add them in. On Eventbrite is our action to look at pledges for tomorrow, what we can ask people to pledge, and today was how we can communicate. So it's kind of like, this is kind of the core of how we kind of issue out those pledges. And I think, like you said, Richard, I think one of the aims is maybe how we go out and do more. So at the moment, I'm just concentrating on councils, but maybe it's the cross-government stuff is what we need to probably look at next. So I'm happy to stay on, ask any questions. If anybody needs to leave, that's absolutely fine. Feel free to go. And I'm happy to answer more questions.
Thanks. I need to go. Thanks very much for
that. Perfect.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks, Ella.
Bye, Rich.
See you later.
See you later. Thanks for all your messages anyway. So I will stop recording.